Alright, just gonna do a audio check, as I usually do. Wait for my stream to turn on my phone. Yep, okay. There we go. So, we finished all of kind of the last of the CSS part of it. Now we're kind of going back to HTML, but it's going to be kind of a little bit more advanced because we're we're going to get into kind of a very interesting topic, which is building forms. I think they kind of have like a capstone project for the unit. It's a survey. It's creating your own form. But it's kind of like when you sign up for anything, it stores that data. Like, let's say you sign up for Facebook, it's gonna ask your first name, last name, phone number. It's gonna save that data, whatever, and put it back into. It's gonna, send it to some kind of server. That's how this stuff works. So we're gonna kind of be learning about that. All right, so. Let's give us a preview of what we're going to be learning. So, we're building, rather. So it's going to look something like this by the time we're done with it. So let's just start. Yeah, last time I messed this up. Sometimes it's just a matter of memorizing things. HTML. Did I do it right? No. Alright, I think it's... Okay, I'm actually gonna look up what it is. Okay, so this should have... It appears it should have this around it. Alright, so... Okay. So, the doc type for it is the opening the opening element, and yeah, that's what it is. So number 2, below the doc type, add an HTML element right here, and with the lang attribute. How do we add an attribute? So that you have a place to start some code. So whenever we open it, we want to close it. So there we go. We're already in step 2. Step 3, add an opening and closing head and body tags. Alright. Opening head, closing head, opening body, closing body. Yeah, that's it. Add a title and a meta element to the head. Alright. We'll start with the title element. Title element, registration form. The meta element. It's gonna be UTF-8. So I believe that includes all the characters. So it's kind of like importing whatever your phone would use to import emojis. It's kind of the same thing. I believe that's self-closing. Okay. Step 5. Nest a self-closing link element within the head element. Alright. So it looks like we're gonna link to an external style sheet. And an href attribute to what would be the external style sheet we're gonna use. And that should be it. Step 6. In the body, provide heading context for the content by adding an h1 in the text registration form. So I think I'm just going to copy it just so I don't make some kind of mistake. Alright. Step 7. Below the heading, use the following text within a paragraph element to encourage users to register. Below the heading, use the following text within a paragraph. Alright, so we're going to be creating a paragraph. Just going to copy it, just to make sure, just for accuracy's sake. So the test has been complete. It worked. Okay. Step 8. The VH unit stands for viewport height. Viewport height, and is relative to 1% of the height of the viewport. But they don't define viewport, so I'm gonna try to get a definition. So the definition of a viewport, I'm getting one of them is a framed area on a display screen for viewing information. A viewport represents a polygonal, normally rectangular area in computer graphics that is currently being viewed. In web browser terms, it refers to the part of the document you're viewing, which is currently visible in its window or the screen if the document is being viewed in full screen mode. Alright, for now, that's kind of the definition we kind of have to work with, but we're gonna try to get more of an intuitive understanding of that in the future. It's time to spruce the project up with some CSS. Begin by giving the body a width. Oh, so a body. So we're gonna use a body selector. And the width is gonna be 100%. And the height is going to be 100 viewport height units. So if you think about it, 1 is 1%, so this is going to be how much? 100%. So it's 100%, 100%. So it's basically saying that it's going to be the entire viewport. Congratulations, your test code passes. Submit your code to continue. Now get rid of the horizontal scroll bar by setting the body default margin added by some browsers to 0. So I guess it's going to get rid of this. So we're going to make that 0. So now, do you notice that we just got rid of that? So before we had a horizontal scroll bar, and now we don't. Step 10. This is better. Now make the background easy on the eyes by changing the body background color to this hexadecimal color. Alright. This hexadecimal representation. So background color. And it's going to be, we're going to start with the pound sign, 1B. So again, if you think about it, breaking it down, it's RGB. So this is how much of red it's going to be. This is how much of green it's going to be. And this is how much of blue it's going to be. So this is that color. And then to see the text, so right now the text is pretty hard to see. It's a very dark background and dark text. That's not good. So to change the text color, you just use color. You would think it would be text color. There would be like an attribute called text color because there's one called background color. But for some reason, it's just color. So something you kind of just have to get familiar with. So then it's going to be F5, F6, F7. So this much of red, this much of green, and this much of blue. RGB, yep. So now it's a white text with the dark background. Let's see if that passed. Yep, it did. As suggested by the title, you're creating a form, so after the P element, insert a form with an action attribute targeting this right here. Okay, so now we're actually going to create the form. So we start by making the form element. And we kind of learned this a little bit in the legacy module. Just gonna have this link. So I'm gonna copy it. Gonna close the form. And that should be what we're supposed to do. Okay, so the method attribute specifies how to send the form form data. So when they put the information, when the user types all the information and puts all that information in the form, it sends that data to the URL specified in the action attribute. So it's going to send that data right here. That's the action it's going to take. Form data can be sent via a GET request as URL parameters with method GET, or via the POST request as data in the request body with method POST. Set the method attribute to send your form data via a POST request, okay? This method POST. So now we're at 12. As a form, we'll have 3 distinct sections. Add 3 field set elements within the form element. Okay. So I believe I've done that. It's kind of weird I always have to scroll down just to see if the code passes. I have to find this thing. Alright, it is what it is. The first field set will hold a name, email, and password fields. Start by adding 4 label elements to the first field set. So label elements. Yeah, at this point I'll just copy and paste it. Check the code. Code passes. Add the following text to the label element. Alright, so this is going to be the first text of the first label element. This is going to be the second text of the second label element. So you kind of see where this is going to go. It's kind of creating the form. This is where it asks you the question before you type in and fill the box in. Oh. And create a new password. So it's just like signing up for an account like anything else. Is that really what it wanted us to do? Okay. Alright, so now we're on step 16. The rem unit stands for root EM and is relative to the font size of the HTML element. As label elements are in line by default, they are all displayed side by side on the same line, making their text hard to read. To make them appear in separate lines, add display block to the label element and add a margin of 0.5 rem 0. Okay. So the rem, alright, label elements are in line by default. They're all displayed side by side on the same line, making their text hard to read. Make them appear on separate lines. Add display. Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess we're supposed to make a label selector. That's kind of what it seems like it's calling for. So we're going to make a label selector. This will apply to all labels. display block, and we'll have the margin point 0.5 rem. Alright, so yeah, because I was kind of questioning if that was even what I was supposed to do, because it's all in one line, but now it looks a little better. Check the code passes. Step 17, nest an input element within each label. Be sure to add each input after the label text and include a space after the colon. So within each label, I think it's telling us to make an input element. I'm trying to remember if input elements are one-lined. I think they are. So it's kind of like it already kind of goes to the default, what you would type in. See? Pretty sure. Copy, paste, paste, paste. So, okay, so I made some kind of error. You should add a second input after the label text. Enter your last name. You should add the second input after the last name and include a space after, a space after the colon. So I'm one space away. Okay, so in general I'm supposed to have a space. So I'll just fix that. So now it's a little better. Alright, so that was it. So step 18, following accessibility best practices, link the input elements and the label elements together for the for attribute. So link the input elements and the label elements together using the for attribute. Use first name, last name, Alright, so admittedly I'm kind of not 100% sure if I put the attribute in the label element or the input element, but we're going to find out together. New password. Okay, so then the ID element is going to have the same thing. The ID element is going to have the same thing. So basically we're linking these two together so they're talking to each other. So new password. I think that should work. Alright, so that's it. That's what I was supposed to do. Alright, so what this does is it links the label to the input element. So you would put that in the label and then put the ID in the input element. Specifying the type attribute of a form element is important for the browser to know what kind of data it should expect. If the type is not specified, the browser will default to text. So basically, all that's saying is it would be it would otherwise be text, like rather than a file or something else like that, which kind of we would already expect. Give the first two input elements a type attribute of text. The third type of email, and the fourth a type of password. This input element, alright, so the type will be text. For the second, this type will also be text. And for this, will also be, for this it'll be email. So it's a special email type. And this is another one. This is password. So it'll do that thing where it'll, because it knows it's a password, it'll censor what you type in. Alright, the code passes. Step 20. First input elements. The first input element with the type of submit is automatically set to submit. It's automatically set to submit its nearest parent form element. So basically what that's saying is once the data is submitted, it's the input element's instinct to send that data to the form elements. So like it'll look for, it'll basically look for it being in a form. It'll look for the form that it's in. So we said this whole thing about how all the data is sent to, it's sent somewhere, but it knows, the input element actually knows to look for a form that it's in. It's kind of an interesting thing. To handle the form submission after the last field text, after the last field set element, add an input element with the type attribute set to submit. So we're basically creating a submit button. So this is the last field set. So right after that, they want a, right after this, they want a submit button. Because kind of like once you fill it in, you're like, where's the button to to finish it with, you know. I think that should be correct. So now the submit button, so then if you type submit, all that data will go to its intended destination. Now step 21, at this point you should be able to submit the form, however you might notice not much happens. To make the form more interactive, add the required attribute in the input elements in the first field set. Okay. So think about this is you know when it says like let's say you just don't fill something in and then it basically the form will remind you to type in, oh, you didn't type in an email, you didn't type in your name, you have to type in this. So all that's done is by saying required. Do they want that for all the input elements? Do they say? Add the required attribute to the input elements. Okay, so all of them. Alright, that's fine. This is number 2. This is number 3. And this is number 4. So now, let's say I just don't type anything in, it'll remind you that you have to fill that out. Please fill out this form, okay? So, am I good yet? Oh, I have to fill this out too, okay. Am I good yet? Nope, I have to fill out this. So I just literally punched my keyboard. I didn't type in any kind of... Remember this form would be submitted, it works, it will be submitted to... So now they're kind of simulating an actual form. But now it would be all set. So it's kind of required as those reminders, where it's like it's not going to proceed forward unless you fill that field out. Step 22, certain type attribute values come with built-in form validation. For example, type equals email requires that the value be a valid email address. Add a custom validation to the password input element by adding a minimum length attribute with the value of 8. Doing so prevents inputs of less than 8 characters to be submitted. So sometimes you get those things where it tells you have to have a certain kind of password, like a strong enough password, and this is kind of how you do that. So for the password, that's right here. So min length has to be at least 8 8 characters. So I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what does it say? Please lengthen this text to 8 characters or more. You currently have 7. Currently have 6. Currently have 5. Currently have 4. Currently have 3. Currently have 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you don't see that. So this would be a strong enough password. And that's accomplished by this code. So that worked. So step 23. With type password, you can use the pattern attribute to define a regular expression that the password must match to be considered valid. Add a pattern attribute to the password input element to require the input match. Type password, you can use a pattern attribute to define a regular expression that the password must match to be considered valid. Okay, so this is kind of more in detail of requirements. Add a pattern attribute to the password. So we're going to do that. This is another one. The above is a regular expression, which matches 8 or more lowercase letters. Or the digits from 0 to 5. Then remove the minimum length. So it wants me to remove this because it already accomplishes that. So here's what this is basically saying is it can be I believe it needs to have lowercase letters. That's what that means. It needs to be between 0 and 5. And you need at least 8 of them. So I think that's what I wanted us to do. Oh, I didn't get rid of the minimum length. Because now we kind of have that. So this right here accomplishes what this would do. So it's kind of saying the same thing. So the code passes. Let's go to the next part of the registration form. This section will ask for the type of account the user is opening, and will confirm the user has read the terms and conditions. Start by adding 3 label elements. Alright. Congratulations, your code passes. Submit your code to continue. Users will be allowed to choose either a personal account or business account. To do this, within each of the first 2 label elements, add 1 input element with type radio. Within each of the first two label elements, add one input element. So we're going to have two radio buttons. This is going to be the second one. So it passed. That's what I wanted us to do. For the terms and conditions, add an input with the type of checkbox to the third label element. So it's going to be, the next one's going to be a checkbox. And it's saying add the required because you need to accept the terms of use. So actually, let's say we submit everything, right? Oh. Yeah, I'm just trying to show that's working. So we're gonna have the required. So now the code passes. So that it would kind of make you check that box off. Within each corresponding label element, and immediately after the input element, add a space and add the following text. Yeah, I'm just gonna check on how long this tutorial is. So we're at 26. So we're gonna try to make the goal to go to at least 32 or 40 today. But yeah, but actually for this tutorial, I think I'll pick it up probably today, but at a later time. Yeah, gonna